Sweet, how's it going? My name is Traden Hoffman. I am an exercise physiology student and I am currently at BYU, Idaho. I am presenting some of the stuff that we've been learning in class from our textbook. And so the topic that I'm going to be talking about today is physiology of training, and then specifically it's going to be resistance training. So let's just jump right into it then. Let's get it. So some of the topics that I'm going to be covering today, I don't know if you can see the screen very well, but I'll talk about it, don't worry. So the topics are detraining following strength training. There's muscle memory and retraining. Inactivity versus maintenance. Concurrent strength and endurance training, or resistance training is concurrent strength. And useful application, blood flow restriction training. So, sweet, let's go. So the first one we're going to talk about is detraining following strength training. So, use it or lose it principle. So the loss of muscular strength and muscle atrophy. If you're not using your muscles, then essentially the muscle mass that you gain is going to be lost. So if you're not using it, you're losing it. Pretty straightforward and simple. So the rate of detraining. So this is talking about resistance training. So resistance training is slower lost when compared to detraining following endurance training. So endurance training, you lose it much faster than resistance training, because let's say that you are a distance runner and you're running a mile pretty consistently to the point where you are not fatigued at all when running a mile. But if you were to stop running for, let's say, like 2 weeks, and you decide, I'm going to go run a mile again, your body's more likely to be fatigued afterwards than it is if you were doing resistance training, because as resistance training, you aren't going to lose that. So specific detraining data. So 31% decrease in maximal dynamic strength. Fiber atrophy was relatively small. So type 1 fibers or slow twitch fibers was about 2%. The type 2A fibers was 10%. And the type 2X fibers was about 14%. So the primary mechanism of initial strength loss. So most of the loss is associated with changes of the nervous system and not just atrophy or just like the loss of muscles. It's more due to the nervous system, and kind of going back to that analogy of the long distance runner, it's more that the kind of attributes that they gained or their body adapted to be able to run those distances are more likely to be lost faster than it would be of the attributes that you gain doing resistance training. So, and then maintenance. So workouts less. So work out less to maintain strength. As few as 1 day a week can maintain strength for about 12 weeks. So if you're able to just maintain, like if you were to go from working out pretty consistently to not working out a whole bunch, and you just wanted to maintain your strength, you wouldn't lose any, but you also wouldn't gain any, but you'd be kind of like that same spot. You could just work out 1 day a week and you'd be able to keep that strength, which I found pretty cool. But so there's muscle memory and retraining. So muscle memory is kind of like a phenomenon where your muscles, if you were to go into like detraining or you were to stop working out completely, your muscles would then be able to come back and get to where you were much faster than it did essentially at the beginning. So if you start working out, like for the first time, it'd take a long time to get to a specific spot. And if you were to stop training for a couple months and then try to hit back into it and had a lot of lost gains, you'd be able to get it back within like a few weeks to like a month. So this is saying right here that the retraining speed is 6 weeks of retraining results of retraining resulted in rapid regaining of dynamic muscular strength and a complete restoration of muscle fiber size equal to the peak training levels. So if you were to have huge muscles and then lose them, you'd be able to gain them a lot faster than you did originally. And so on the next slide, it talks about kind of like a controversy of why that is. And so this controversy is myonuclei theory. So it's a controversial theory because not everybody agrees with it, but the theory itself is resistance training increases the number of myonuclei in your muscle fibers, and so the myonuclei remain in the fiber even after long periods of detraining, and it allows muscles to grow faster than previous before the detraining. And so because those muscle nuclei, or the nuclei that are in the muscle fibers, it kind of like keeps that memory of, oh, this is how many we had and this is how big you were. And so essentially when you go to work out again, it'll be like, okay, we know what we're doing, we got you, and we'll get you back up to speed and where you want to be, right? And so they just keep it, and it's that muscle memory phenomenon. So inactivity versus maintenance. So prolonged inactivity. So let's say that you were to break your arm or your leg or dislocate something or whatever it might be, right? You're not able to use that muscle. It leads to rapid muscle atrophy. So as few as 7 days, it results into 7% to 10% loss of muscle mass. So if you were working out so hard and then broke your bone, all that muscle mass, at least 10% of it would be gone within a week, which is crazy because it takes so long to be able to get that muscle mass. But because of the muscle memory, you probably get it back a lot faster than you did originally. But the inactivity mechanism is the atrophy occurs due to both a decrease in protein synthesis and an increase in muscle protein breakdown. And so if you were to try and work out, my bad. So the atrophy occurs due to both a decrease in protein synthesis and increase in muscle protein breakdown. Your muscles just aren't able to, they're not being used, and so your body essentially takes those proteins and those different things that your body's using, and it takes it and sends it to other places that need it because your body isn't essentially needing it at the moment. And so it's like, oh, you're not being used. So it's going to cause your muscles to get weaker and not be used. So some key inactivity triggers. So increased production of free radicals. And free radicals are essentially just molecules that are missing an electron. And so their valence shell, or that outer shell of electrons on it, to make it happy and not be trying to steal electrons from other people. So that's what free radicals are, which activates pathways for protein breakdown and decreases protein synthesis. And so it prevents the mTOR activity. And I'll talk about that on the next slide. But so maintenance, exactly what we were talking about before, right? Just trying to go over it again. So the maintain strength for up to 12 weeks with a reduced training frequency, so just one training day per week, or even like 2 weeks. So just like very minimal to retain that that strength that you gained, just because resistance training is absolutely baller. So come on. So concurrent strength and endurance training. So the effect So concurrent resistance and high intensity endurance training on the same day can result in impaired strength gains when compared to resistance training alone. So essentially, if you were a power athlete and you're trying to get as much gains as possible, let's say you're a power lifter, it probably would not be the best decision to do endurance training at the same time, because endurance training has these thresholds. Concurrent training impairs strength gains when endurance training is performed more than 2 days per week and more than 30 minutes per day. And so if you were to try to include endurance training into your strength training, you'd probably see a decrease in your strength results or your strength capacity, and you want to get the results that you wanted. But if you were a endurance athlete, it's kind of the opposite. You can see, or not exactly the opposite, but kind of close. But endurance, if you were to exercise and do resistance training, you would either see no change or you could see an improvement of performance in your events. So I thought that was super cool as well. But so primary mechanism, depressed protein synthesis. And so endurance exercise increases the rate of AMPK. And so that's a protein that activates TSC2, and TSC2 is what inhibits mTOR. And so mTOR essentially just helps with protein synthesis and allows your body to be better at resistance training, and helps you just, it's like kind of like a survival protein. And so essentially it doesn't allow you to gain too much muscle mass, and your strength output won't be as high, but for some instances it's pretty great. For example, there are like long distance Olympic runners or like long distance runners. They uses AMPK to maximize their ability to run as far as possible at as high speeds as they can. And so as you can see on him, he's not very like big and bulky, but he's able to probably run for a very long time at a high performance. So some useful application: the blood flow restriction, the BFR training. So this is a technique to where it allows individuals to increase their muscle strength using very low loads, minimizing stress on healing tissues. So the BFR benefit essentially allows you to, instead of trying to lift like super heavy loads, you'd be able to do kind of those same things but at lower loads, and you have the same results for your muscles. So the BFR resistance training essentially takes this cuff on this guy's leg, right? You can put it on your bicep, or really on any muscle you're trying to kind of restrict blood flow to, and it allows your muscles to kind of go through that same thing. But the kind of cause that it would help to prevent is the stress that it would put on your muscles, and allows you to be able to regain that muscle mass safer and easier. And so this leads into the next slide of kind of who would be beneficial for. And so some of the people that would benefit from kind of this BFR would be injured athletes and power and strength athletes. And the reason being that if you're injured, you probably don't want to hurt yourself while trying to regain strength in your muscles. And so being able to lift lighter loads means that it's going to be easier on your legs trying to heal, or whatever muscle you're trying to help, whether it be your arms, your legs, or whatever it is, right? And then power and strength athletes, kind of the same thing. Instead of let's take like a powerlifter, for instance, if they're trying to lift 400 pounds, they'd instead be able to use this to be able to cut off a little bit of blood circulation so that it then they have the same effects as lifting that heavy weight without lifting the amount of weight that it is. And so it had the same effect in building their muscles and allowing their muscles to gain strength to be able to lift that same weight or heavier weights than that weight itself, because it'd be the same difficulty. And then also people who benefit or people that use this are practitioners or like sports medicine professionals such as PTs or athletic trainers. And so I actually was able to work with one of these machines before because I worked at a PT clinic, and so I didn't really understand how it worked too well, but usually I just hook up the machine to somebody and you just hook it on, plug in the tube, hook it up to the machine that kind of like pressurizes the cuff itself to allow restriction on that those veins in that muscle, and then it would allow them to kind of get a good workout in even though they weren't using too much weight. So time for the quiz. Let's go. So question number 1. So this is like a 5-question quiz, and it's basically just going to help you to kind of get some of the key factors out of what the presentation was talking about. So the first one is true or false. The majority of strength loss during a 30-week detraining period is attributed to severe muscle fiber atrophy. This is false. So it's largely attributed to the nervous system or the neural factors, right? Question number 2. What is the proposed primary cellular mechanism residing within the muscle fiber that explains the phenomenon of muscle memory upon retraining? The answer is an increased number of myonuclei, or the nuclei, the muscle nuclei. What type of athletes could potentially benefit from VFR training? We just talked about that one, and that would be the injured and the power/strength athletes. What is the signaling molecule that endurance training activates, which then directly inhibits the mTOR pathway and thus protein synthesis during concurrent training or resistance training? And the answer would be the TSC2 or the AMPK, because that activates that and then inhibits the mTOR, right? And then question number 5. Prolonged activities such as limb immobilization causes rapid muscle atrophy by simultaneously increasing muscle protein breakdown and decreasing what? And the answer would be muscle protein synthesis. But sweet. And all my references came from this textbook. So thank you so much for watching, and hopefully you were able to learn something new. Hope you all have a great day, and catch you later.